This is a breaking news alert.
Got some more breaking news now. Vindication, explosive new Flynn details. We'll have the new FBI director hanging his head in shame. Emily Nowak, Liberty Writers News, reports that an explosive story came out of Circa News on Tuesday, detailing how then Deputy Director of the FBI, Andrew McCabe, may have purposely and maliciously targeted the General Michael Flynn in the Russia case against him. Now, they state there is certainly a lot of information to unpack here, so take notes. In 2012, Robin Gritz, a supervisory special agent, claimed that she was being sexually discriminated against her in her job at the FBI. Gritz was a rising star with excellent credentials within the agency, but then became stonewalled from promotions when she started working under McCabe. They right here, Flynn supported Gritz's claim, writing a letter, conducting an interview, and offering to testify on her behalf. This offer would have made him a witness against McCabe. You see what's happening here? This is Flynn's investigation is retaliation. Now, 3 FBI employees have told Circa News that they heard McCabe disparage Flynn before and during the Russia case, which made them uncomfortable. The plot thickens. Now, Frederick Whitehurst, a former FBI employee and whistleblower, has stated, because McCabe has grievances against Flynn over the sexual discrimination case, McCabe should have recused himself from the investigation of Flynn. Especially now, they write Flynn supported that discrimination suit against McCabe, potentially hurting McCabe's career. Are you following all this? Are you following why the witch hunt against Flynn took place and involved the now director of the FBI, the acting director? So they write here that McCabe was then in charge of investigating Flynn 2 years later when he should have recused himself, so his actions could not have been interpreted as retribution. Now, the 3 FBI agents spoke to Circa News anonymously for fear of retribution, but Whitehurst explained that, quote, if McCabe stays involved, the case against Flynn has no credibility. Quote, if there are criminal charges that could go against Flynn, that's got to go to court, and those agents at some point may be called before a grand jury, and anything McCabe said to them about Flynn could be used as exonerating information or evidence of misconduct. Wow. McCabe is more bad news hitting him today. McCabe, they right here, had a lot of reasons to get back at Flynn, so how could he possibly have been allowed to conduct an investigation against him when he was so biased? So this story is new. It's breaking now, and Liberty Writers will keep you updated, so will Next News, if there are any new developing stories. Obviously, the mainstream media is never going to report on this, so that's why we need you to share this story.
It was worth a shot, and with that, I'll take your questions. Charlie?
Recently, Breitbart News challenged the accuracy of the CNN story, and afterwards it was retracted, deleted, and the editors responsible were fired, as well as the network apologized for the story. One of the targets of the story accepted the apology. The president went on Twitter this morning and repeated that CNN was fake news. Why isn't their response good enough for the president?
I don't know that it's that the response isn't good enough for the president. I think it's the constant barrage of fake news directed at this president probably that has garnered a lot of his frustration. You point to that report. There are multiple other instances where that outlet that you referenced has been repeatedly wrong and had to point that out or be corrected. There's a video circulating now, whether it's accurate or not. I don't know, but I would encourage everybody in this room and, frankly, everybody across the country to take a look at it. I think if it is accurate, I think it's a disgrace to all of media, to all of journalism. I think that we have gone to a place where if the media can't be trusted to report the news, then that's a dangerous place for America. And I think if that is the place that certain outlets are going, particularly for the purpose of spiking ratings, and if that's coming directly from the top, I think that's even more scary and certainly more disgraceful. And I hope that that's not the direction we're headed. I hope that outlets that have continued to use either unnamed sources, sometimes stories with no sources at all. We've been going on this Russia-Trump hoax for the better part of a year now with no evidence of anything. Things like the success at the VA barely get covered. They may get covered for an hour at a time, but this story gets covered day in, day out. And I think America is frankly looking for something better. They're looking for something more. And I think they deserve something better from our news media.
Does the president actually expect, expect us not to report on stories of a foreign country trying to influence the presidential election?
I don't think it's that it's expected that you're not to report on, again, actual news if there's something there. But again, I think that there are a lot of things happening in this world that frankly a lot of people would like to hear about, whether it's job growth, whether it's deregulation, whether it's tax reform, health care. I think a lot of those things deserve a lot more coverage than they get. And all we're saying is, you know, I think that we should take a really good look at what we are focused on, what we are covering, and making sure that it's actually accurate and it's honest. If we make the slightest mistake, the slightest word is off, it is just an absolute tirade from a lot of people in this room. But news outlets get to go on day after day and cite unnamed sources, use stories without sources, have, you mentioned the Scaramucci story where they had to have reporters resign.
Come on, you're inflaming everybody right here and right now with those words. This administration has done that as well. Why in the name of heavens? Any one of us, right, are replaceable, and any one of us, if we don't get it right, the audience has the opportunity to turn the channel or not read us. You have been elected to serve for 4 years at least. There's no option other than that. We're here to ask you questions.
Right.
You're here to provide the answers. And what you just did is inflammatory to people all over the country who look at it and say, see, once again, the president is right and everybody else out here is fake media. And everybody in this room is only trying to do their job.
Well, I disagree completely. First of all, I think if anything has been inflamed, it's the dishonesty that often takes place by the news media. And I think it is outrageous for you to accuse me of inflaming a story when I was simply trying to respond to his question. Kevin.
Thank you, Sarah. I just rapid fire.
Explain, because you went on the record this morning, what the process was that led to that statement last night. Were members of the team at the State Department or the Defense Department taken aback by that statement, or were they fully involved? Can you give us an idea of how the process internally worked to deliberate that statement and then create the statement for public release?
I can tell you that leadership from the State Department, DOD, DNI, the CIA, as well as members of the administration within this building were part of that process from the very beginning and fully aware.
Can you give us a timeline from the very beginning? Was that yesterday or?
I'm not going to walk through the detailed process of a timeline on how that was released for intelligence purposes.
You just said you accept or find valid the CBO numbers on the budget side. Is that true throughout?
They're a budget.
Yesterday?
They're a budget office, and I think on the initial numbers that we saw from that, the cutting of the deficit, the cutting of taxes, I think that that's where historically they've been more accurate as well. It's not just my, like I've decided that, but historically that's where they've been.
For purposes of the public looking at this, would this administration accept the budget and revenue numbers that were published yesterday as generally speaking valid and worth taking seriously?
I would think so for the most part. I think in large, yes. Jennifer?
Two things, one on Google and one on the economic forecast. So European officials have slapped Google with this $2.7 million fine. Is the White House cool with European regulators hitting a U.S. company with a fine when our own Federal Trade Commission hasn't accused them of anti-competitive behavior?
At this point, I don't have anything for us to weigh in on the regulations of a private company, but if anything changes, I'll let you know. Okay, Kristen?
On the international
Jim, there are two questions, just like NBC. Given the news about CNN's...
Be careful letting NBC set your standard.
Given the news about CNN's erroneous story about Anthony Scaramucci, does the White House believe there are other Russia-related stories from major outlets that have not been retracted and are just as false, including the February 14th story in the New York Times about collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia, which James Comey called into question, which many believe the CNN story was based upon?
I would have to look back at that specific story. There have been many by the New York Times that I would probably disagree quite a bit with. I think you could take it pretty straightforward that this administration disagrees with all of the stories that claim that the president and his campaign colluded with Russia in any capacity. So I think he's been extremely clear that he believes that's a hoax, and certainly something that's not true and didn't take place. And any story related to that, you would, I think, find frustration from this team here.
For the CNN retraction, does the White House now believe the news media have an obligation to review stories on the Russian Trump issue and retract questionably sourced stories on the topic?
I'm sorry? I'm not following the...
Do you believe that the media should go back and look at anonymously sourced stories on Russia and Trump and, you know, maybe start a review process and retract where necessary?
I think that'd be a great idea. I certainly don't think that you would get arguments from us if there were retractions from outlets on fake stories. But I also think that, you know, there's a moment where we can all do better. And I certainly think that's what we strive to do every day, and hopefully that's the goal. I know it is of many, and hopefully it will continue to be of not just the news media, but everybody involved in the process to continue to do better, to continue to strive for excellence.